The purpose of the conversation is to discuss some of the initiatives that we have coordinated in the past year to contribute to either the reconstruction of the island post-Maria. Here today we have Maria Estefania Barrios. She's a research associate at the School of Architecture in the University of Florida. We also have Jose Luis Rivera, founder and president of the Puerto Rican Student Association at the University of Central Florida. Teresita Levy, director of international programs and global partnerships and associate professor of Latin American and Latino and Puerto Rican studies at Lehman College. And finally, we have Rachel Stephenson, assistant vice chancellor for strategic partnerships at the Office of Academic Affairs at the University of New York. My name is Margarita Varela, and I am a board member of the nonprofit organization Senadores Puerto Rico in Washington, D.C., and also the National Conference of Puerto Rican Women. And I will get started sharing with you a project that I coordinated for the University of the District of Columbia School of Law. Basically, back in August of 2017, I helped spearhead a trip to the island with 10 students from the university. The name of the course was called Legal Issues in Puerto Rico. This course lasted 1 week. It was a 2-credit course that allowed the students to learn about several topics, comparative law, for example, international law, also about the new DNA testing tools that are being incorporated in the island to free some people that are innocent, that have been incarcerated.
So, like Margarita said, my name is Maria Estefania. I'm not from Puerto Rico, not from Uruguay, but lately I've been involved with the Puerto Rico community very closely. I study at the University of Florida. I did my master's in architecture and my master's in construction management. And then I came back to work as a research associate at the CHU, which is the Center for Hydrogenated Urban Anemia. After the 10 days of the workshop, this is what the chairholder, kind of his reflection of Puerto Rico and the situation, and within all the abandoned buildings and the problems with electricity and the housing and everything that happened after Maria. That's how he saw Puerto Rico. That he needs the rebuild, a new pump. That the infrastructure is there, but let's say the veins are there, but there's no blood pumping. So that was basically his main concept related. So what we did was created a data bank of all the actual, the current situation of Puerto Rico, like where there was no electricity, was the damage as we can gather day by day, because feedback and data was getting updated day by day. So based on that, we created this data bank that was lately used on the workshop that we did in March. A group that visited Playita, Laguna, and Llorens, and the other group, we went to Canoa, San Luis, and we saw the mudslides. We went to San Isidro and Cubo, and we saw the dam and all the damage that happened. And I forgot to tell you, the fifth lab was on top economic opportunities. So they focus on the Coliseum in San Juan, and also the Tren Urbano, and how can that kind of push that economic opportunity. So the students, after 5 days working, it was a collaboration between the UPR, the University of Florida. We have students from Rome, we have students from Seville, and the New York Institute of Technology. So we gathered around 150 people between students and consultants and professors and officials and authorities. So the students managed to work some visions and ideas that they later presented the following Saturday to a panel that we were fortunate to have Dr. Melendez to be one of our panelists and our jurors.
UCF, the University of Central Florida, it's in Orlando. And we were the main university in all the mainland US to be impacted with the most so-called displaced students. We received around 210 students. And to give you kind of a background, a little bit of UCF, we're becoming a Hispanic serving institution. That means that 25% of our students are actually Hispanics. We have 66,000 students. We're the second largest university in the nation. So that means we have a lot of resources. I was actually looking at the budget of the university. It's about $2.1 billion. So there's a lot of resources. And that's the main university in Central Florida where we have the emergence of our new community here in the US. So I did my AA, my associates, and then transferred to UCF. And when I got there, I realized there was no student, like Puerto Rican Student Association. Now, for me, that was incredible because we were in Orlando. So I was like, I have the vision, as Dr. Melendez was saying in his opening remarks. You have to first identify the problem, do your research, and then take your action. And then when I propose to myself to take an action, I don't stop until I do it. So that's what I did. I had that mentality of actually starting the association. I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew I was doing something right. And so actually, the first Irma came to Florida, and that same week I was actually preparing my flyers to promote myself and the association that was emerging, and I wasn't able to do it because of the hurricane. But then the first week of classes came by and started giving the flyers, and then Maria was announced in Puerto Rico, and I was like, this is crazy. At first, we didn't have that huge amount of people, but we were having already, like when we started before this, 20 to 30 members already, like within UCF before the new students. So we were pretty successful compared to associations that were already, in the university. And so what we did is we created a relief efforts committee, knowing what was going to come, because the university had already extended it's called the residence tuition reduction, which you would consider the tuition of in-state, which is $3,000 versus $11,000, so a discount of $9,000 per semester for the students. And it included the students who were already at UCF, who had out-of-state tuition, and also the students who were going to start this semester, spring 2019. And so it was a great initiative from the University of Central Florida. But what we noticed was that the university was actually extending this in-state tuition, this help for the transfer student for only one semester. So what we did is we try to engage as much as possible with the community outside, because it was so important. We were all being impacted, not only at UCF. So we partnered with Boricua Vota Iniciativa Acción Puertorriqueña, which is a big nonprofit organization in Orlando. And actually we went to also community events where we were invited to host, like the Puerto Rican table, Puerto Rican student table. And so we came to be, from all of our initiatives, kind of the head of pretty much all the Puerto Rican students in the Central Florida area. And all the community leaders wanted to invite us, and we're here actually with Congresswoman Murphy, who is our district congresswoman. Then you can go ahead. And so what we did, Puerto Ricans didn't exist at UCF. The estimate is from that 25%, which accounts for like 17,000 students who are Hispanics, we are about 38. So that's the estimate. The biggest Hispanic, from the Hispanics, the big population are Puerto Ricans, and we are about 6,000 at UCF. That's the estimate. There's no specific number, but that's the estimate. So I mean, there was no sense of being Puerto Rican at UCF or any emergence of actually, taking initiative and having a process. So we created a whole, obviously we had the situation, but what we did is we took that opportunity, we created a media campaign to actually expose ourselves. So we actually, we were really relevant, if not the most relevant Hispanic population, and one of the most relevant populations, the university right now. They're paying the administration, everyone's paying us attention, all of a sudden. Now you can go ahead. So what we did is we hosted the first Puerto Rican Student Leadership Conference. We actually invited students from FIU, because Florida International University doesn't have any Puerto Rican association also. It's incredible. It's the second biggest pretty much, in Florida, and they don't have one. So they came, we invited them, they came and we hosted some of our great leaders within Florida. You can see that's Bob Cortez and Amy Torres. They're both Florida representatives who are Puerto Rican. Orange County Commissioner Emily Bonilla, Dr. Fernando Rivera, who's a researcher at UCF, Mr. Jimmy Torres and Adela Lopez. They're both great community leaders. And so what we want to do is a development of our youth leadership, because that's our future. And in Orlando, we need, to have people who are going to be successful, who are going to be the leaders of our future. So that's what we're trying to build. So when we saw that the students had to actually pay those $9,000, what we told ourselves is we have to take an action. So kind of the new coalition we created at UCF, the Puerto Rican leaders, we said we want to take this to the table and do everything we have to do to make sure that at least we can extend that in-state tuition for a year, which is the requirement for students to get their residency, their official, without asking, you're a resident, that's it. You don't have to ask for more in-state tuition. So that's why what we did. We pushed through the Student Senate, and that's the Board of Trustees, which is the board that governs over the university. And so we got the support from elected officials, from Darren Soto, Congresswoman Murphy, even the governor of Puerto Rico supported our effort. All over, the community, it was the media, it was amazing. We worked all around, and so we presented through our president of the student government, and we got approved unanimously, and so we I call it, we transform a policy, and I think that's the vision we all have to have. I'm a student, I'm not an elected official, whatever, I believe in myself a lot. But I mean, I'm just putting into perspective that we as individuals, if we propose ourselves to do something, we can do it. It just takes the effort. So I mean, pretty much we're very proud of our efforts because we've had great achievements. Our most, greatest effort is extending the in-state tuition, but also we were awarded by UCF as the new organization of the year. So I believe in having, as Martin Luther King, having a dream and then going for it, achieving it. And I think that's the vision we have to have. And also, right now, as continuing my efforts, I want to pursue the Student Senate to have more of a broad capacity of resources, and I want to start organizing the different universities and students around Florida. And if we can at a national level, so that's why, we're here to network and to expand our opportunities to help our diaspora and the island. Thank you.
Let's continue with Ms. Teresita Levy.
And that as academics, we have a major role in engaging our community. So that's where I would like to start. And now for the history lesson. So I am a professor of Puerto Rican history at Lehman College. And we are a Hispanic serving institution, except 54% of our students are of Hispanic heritage. I belong to a department proudly that was the first ethnic studies department on the East Coast, modeled after the Chicano studies departments of the West Coast. And we are the first Puerto Rican studies department in the nation. There is a fundamental place for academics, for intellectuals, to think about ways that we can be visionary, of ways that we can engage the community, of ways that we can be civically minded. And I have two titles, if you noticed, from that very lovely introduction. I'm a professor first, but I am also the director of international programs and global partnerships, which means that I have the pleasure of traveling around the world and developing partnerships with universities in near and far places. And I say that only to tell you that I have been thinking a lot over the last 2 years about the Cuban model of education, because I have had an opportunity to take 49 of our students to Cuba over the last spring break to study and learn from our Cuban partners. And their model of education says that education is only valuable if it has social impact. And it is only in whatever we study as intellectuals and academics has to have social good. behind it. What is the social good of what I do? What is the social impact of what I do? And I would suggest that we need to start thinking that way. And that this is a perfect opportunity, as tragic as it is, to put on that hat and say, what do we do? How do we have social impact? How do we have social good in how we think about the questions of history or economics or psychology or sociology, right? So that's the first thing that I want to let you to think about. And I have no answers, by the way, none, sorry. If you were here for answers, I have none. I just have lots of questions that I hope that we can dialogue as we move into the second part of this panel. And the other thing that I wanted to say is that academic engagement and academic partnerships for civic engagement are limitless, they're endless. But here is the key. They need to be defined by those that are affected. In other words, I can't pretend to know what it was like to be in Puerto Rico during the week of Maria. Because you know what? I was not there. My mother was, and I can talk to her and I can listen to her. My friends were, and I can talk to them and I can listen to them. But I cannot pretend to know what is best. That is my question. As a person that develops academic partnerships, as a person that thinks about the world, about how do we work with institutions, I say, what do you need? How can I help you? And every project that we do, every partnership that we build has to start from that place. And it's easy for us, I think, right? To say, I have a great idea for you. I know exactly how we're gonna fix this. If you just listen to me, see, you know this, right? If you just listen to me, we would solve the whole thing. The president of the university said was, your society is judged by the way that you treat the people that need you the most. And your ability to take care of those people after a natural disaster says more about the country that you are than anything else that you can do. And I would say that that is our challenge right now, as Puerto Ricans, as supporters of Puerto Rico, as scholars of Puerto Rico, Puerto Rican or otherwise, that is our challenge. How do we take care of the people that needed us the most?
Rachel is the Assistant Vice Chancellor for Strategic Partnerships at the Office of Academic Affairs for the University of New York. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. It's a real privilege to be here. And Dr. Melendez, thank you for the invitation to be a part of this panel. Today, I am an ambassador for the City University of New York. The City University of New York is our public university system, the largest public university system in the country with 250,000 degree-seeking students and another 250,000 adult and continuing education students. I am here to talk about how our massive system, and you can imagine the challenges of navigating a system like ours, is ultimately being mobilized to send 250 CUNY students to Puerto Rico starting this June. We are among a community of stakeholders who have been charged with making this happen. Many of you are probably aware that Governor Cuomo earlier this year started to talk about the New York Stands with Puerto Rico Recovery and Rebuilding Initiative. There are a number of components to that initiative, including roundtables with lots of experts and tactical assessments and a plan for building workforce and training programs in Puerto Rico. And one of the components is a student-centered engagement opportunity. $500,000, I think, from UNICEF is part of the work. But in the end, when all of the pieces of this initiative were announced, Governor Cuomo made a real point to emphasize the fact that 500 students, 250 from the City University of New York and 250 from the State University of New York, would ultimately be deployed to Puerto Rico starting this summer to be a part of the rebuilding. And we mean that very literally. So I will be honest with you, the announcement about our engagement happened, like 3 weeks ago?
2.5.
And we have at breakneck speed come together, as a university to build a program. But what we're thinking right now is that students will go to Puerto Rico starting at the end of June for 2-week sessions, so probably about 4 consecutive 2-week sessions. And during that time, they will be working with nonprofits on the ground. I mean, one in particular, All Hands and Hearts, has emerged as a very likely partner, although that still needs to be finalized. And they will be engaged with communities of volunteers who are literally, in neighborhoods and communities in the mountains. We don't even know exact locations at this point. But part of a living community of volunteers, residential community volunteers who are day after day after day a part of this work. Now, because we are thinking about creating context for the students who are there and helping them to, have experiences that they will take back with them in addition to the service that they'll be doing, we're also thinking about the kind of cultural enrichment which we can facilitate, outside of the service project. Now, here's the really cool news. Students who are participating will not pay for their airfare, they will not pay for their lodging, they will not pay for their food. They will receive a $500 stipend from CUNY for that 2-week engagement. And one of the really important things that the governor has said about this program is that CUNY students can earn credits. We can't say for sure what will happen, but all the conversations we're having are about building an infrastructure for ongoing engagement.
Well, thank you for the information and for sharing the information about the project. We hope that it's very successful. Applause.